Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Tuesday, May 9th meeting of the Onalaska Common Council. It is 7 p.m. The meeting has been duly posted and we will begin with the roll. City Clerk Joanne Marcon, could you please call the roll?
Mayor Kim Smith,
Here.
Sean McAllister.
Here.
Dan Stevens,
Present.
Stephen Knott,
Present.
Leanne Stokes. Here. Larry Jurassic,
Present.
Diane Wolf.
Here. Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States. And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 3, the rules of the City of Onalaska Common Council and its subcommittees. This is a harassment-free forum. City Council and subcommittee meetings shall be conducted in a courteous manner. Citizens, council, and committee members shall be allowed to state their positions in an atmosphere free of slander, obscene remarks, or threats of violence. Sufficient warnings may be given by the sergeant at arms or the chair at any time during the remarks. And in the event that any individual shall violate the rules of decorum as set forth, such person may then be cut off from comment or debate. Item 4 is public input. This is the time where members of the public may address the Common Council. If you choose to do so, please begin by stating your name and your address and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Would anybody like to address the Onalaska Common Council this evening? Come on up to the dais, state your name and your address.
Ethan Eddy, 317 8th Avenue South, Onalaska, Wisconsin. Just go for it.
Just go for it.
Good evening, council. My name is Ethan Eddy. I have lived on the corner of 8th Avenue South and Green Street for the past 6 years. I recently have noticed a more than usual amount of parking and traffic on my block, and it made me question what was happening. Then I saw there's all these new no student parking signs that have been posted from the high school all the way down to Green Street, and that is where they stop. I don't know if there are plans to make all of 8th Avenue South a no student parking, but I would like to voice my concerns as a voting citizen of Onalaska who loves the city. First, I would like to say that our block has already had multiple accidents at our corner due to speeding traffic up and down 8th Avenue South. And because there's only yield signs on the side streets and not stop signs. There's a high volume of traffic that flows down 8th Avenue South because there's a school on both ends. To me, it only seems both smart and fair that if we are to take on this task of figuring out where students must park, that one of the highest traffic and not as speed enforced as I have seen on a regular basis on 8th Avenue, either all of it should have no parking for students or none of it should have no parking for students. Second, our block of 8th and Green has had a lot of questionable traffic and parking at many times of the day since I have lived here. And you may want to check with our local law enforcement on if this is the safest place for our students to be parking around. Where was I here? It is sometimes very sketchy. The people and the cars labeled from Chicago and other places that are broken down, coming up and down our alleys in that area and leaving and then never returning, and new questionable cars come. Finally, I would like to say that to me, this seems like a problem that the school should have to solve instead of enforcing new rules on the citizens of Onalaska that live on 8th Avenue and 9th Avenue. I understand there's budgets. I know that things happen, but if the school can't provide ample parking, us as citizens taking that on, I don't think that there's enough discussion about that. Furthermore, creating even more distance for the kids to walk, I feel creates a much larger liability considering the high traffic, the dangerous somewhat of the neighborhood, and the car wrecks that have happened here. And I don't know if that liability falls on the school or if that liability will fall on the city itself. If you could please just investigate this matter further at your leisure. And I'm very happy that you have heard my concerns tonight. And I really do appreciate your time and your service. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Eddy. Would anyone else like to address the Common Council this evening? Second call for anyone wishing to address the Common Council. Third and final call for anyone wishing to address the Common Council this evening. Public input is now closed and we will continue with item 5, the report from the mayor. Item A is a public service recognition week proclamation. I'm not going to read the entire proclamation, but I just want to point out that this is recognizing public servants at all levels, and I'm encouraging all citizens to recognize the accomplishments and contributions of government employees at all levels, but especially those workers in the city of Onalaska who should receive our respect and gratitude for doing the important work of servicing the people of the city of Onalaska. So thank you all, those of you here tonight and those that aren't able to, we do appreciate you. Item B, National Kids to Parks Day proclamation. This is also in the packet. Asking people to encourage all citizens to celebrate this day by making time to take the children in their lives to a neighborhood, state, or national park. So those are 2 proclamations for this month. And I'll continue on with recommendations for approval and or possible action from the following committees, commissions, boards, and officials. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered routine and will be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member requests removal, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in the order of business on the non-consent agenda. Is there anything the councilors would like removed from the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda as printed.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor by Alder Diane Wolf. It's been seconded by Alder Stephen Knott to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries and the consent agenda has been passed. Moving on to the non-consent agenda. Under 7, the recap, there were no items pulled, so that one is complete. Item 8 is the Finance Committee. I'll turn it over to Alder Leanne Stokes.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 8, Finance Committee. 8A is vouchers. Sabrina gave me the list of the vouchers and they have been signed. The following is a list of monies expended since the last Common Council meeting dated April 11th, 2023. The dollar amount is $2,080,835.91. Sabrina, any comments?
No, I don't have anything to add.
Okay, thank you. The 8B is,
You make a motion.
oh, I'm sorry. Can you make, is there a motion to approve?
You make the motion to approve.
Okay, I make the motion to approve the vouchers from the last Common Council meeting. And then do I say
I'll
this?
second it.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Alder Stokes. It's been seconded by Alder Jurassic to approve the vouchers for this month. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The vouchers are approved. Back to you, Leanne.
Okay, item 8B, the 2023/2024 salt purchase. Jared is not here, but Kevin is available. Kevin, can you walk us through that?
Yeah, good evening. So I believe tonight the agenda here is to spend additional monies on salt purchasing for this. Sometimes historically this had occurred versus when our budget is issued for the year end kind of deal, first of the year for when salt purchasing is done, right? Because we expend some of these monies as soon as January 1st starts for this fund. So this is something where, depending on the winter season that just occurred, right, we want to go into the next upcoming winter season with both of our salt sheds full, right? Just the security that we have enough material to fight the upcoming winter storms that will be occurring, right? In previous years, sometimes depending on the weather, is a lack of ability or the purchasing of salt after the contract date or after the first year becomes excessively pricey. Just as supply and demand depending on the winter season. So that's what's in front of you today is a approval for an additional expenditure. So that coming up for the 2023-24 winter season, both salt sheds would be full.
Thank you for that, Kevin. Alder Stevens?
Is there a reason that this was on the non-consent? It seems like we know we're gonna have to buy salt. Was there anything contentious about this? If not, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Dan Stevens, seconded by Stephen Knott to approve the additional salt purchase for the 2023-2024 year. Is there further discussion? Sabrina?
I think the only reason that this got moved to the non-consent agenda, just because of the budget impact, just so all council members were aware. The other thing to note, and it's in the memo as well, we do have a reserve set aside. So if we were to go over budget, we do have some reserved funds that are set aside for these types of situations in regards to salt and sand purchases.
Okay, any other discussion? The motion on the floor is to approve the purchase. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
And the final item under finance is item C, the Cooley Region Traffic Safety Task Force Grant. This was not brought forward to the F&P because of the time that it was received by Chief Ashbeck. So he is going to do the explanation on that.
Thank you. Welcome, Chief.
Good evening, thank you. Yeah, so before you is basically the same safety grant that we receive every year from DOT. It was just as Alder Stokes had indicated, I just received this last week from the town of Campbell, which administers the grant for multiple agencies. And so we debated, do we put it on the council for this week or do we wait till June? But town of Campbell really preferred to get an answer that we were going to participate sooner than later. So given this is the standard grant we've used every year, there's really no cost to the city. We use a soft match that we can use as the formula so we don't have to pay out of pocket. I figured this was something that we could bring forward tonight for you to evaluate.
Thank you.
I make a motion to approve the Cooley Region Traffic Safety Task Force Grant.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Leon Stokes. It's been seconded by Sean McAllister, his first second. Motion is to approve. Is there any further discussion? Alders not?
Is there any cost that'll be associated with this?
There's a 20% soft match, which we typically use. Thank you. We typically use like mileage and administrative costs. The state allows us to use that as our soft match. So there's no out of pocket costs where we have to, we get reimbursed fully for the overtime expended.
Okay.
Alder Stevens.
So in talking about targeted areas under 6B, I guess, how are it looks like there's a task force from like different communities. How would locations in Onalaska be determined? Is that through our own department or is this like a committee of all law enforcement in La Crosse County?
It is determined by our department. What the state has gone to a model of, we like to have, or they like to have multiple agencies out on the same day, but we can be out in our own jurisdictions and enforcing, as part of this grant. So we'll pick locations throughout the city to enforce and have officers out there.
And a follow-up question would be, would these be targeted to like neighborhoods? I mean, we just had somebody talk about speeding today. Or would they be in more high traffic corridors, or where would you foresee, where might this take place?
Typically, the state will like to see more high traffic corridors, state highways, areas like that. I'd have to look over the grant particulars to see if they would allow us to go on more residential city streets, but typically those have not been the areas because of not the high volume of traffic. I guess less bang for your buck, I guess, enforcing.
Sure. And then I noticed that it said that there was like a zero tolerance for exceptions. I mean, is that like 1 mile over the speed limit, or is that how would this be enforced?
Well, without getting into too much detail.
I mean, our citizens want to know, like, it says 25, they need to go 25, I'm assuming.
I guess what I'd like to say is if you are pulled over, expect to receive a ticket.
Okay,
So
thank you, Chief.
compared to warnings, yes.
That was his chief voice. Okay, the motion on the floor is to approve the grant. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. Item 9, Personnel Committee. Leanne?
Yes, item 9A, temporary increase in hours for the fire administrative assistant position. Interim Fire Chief Noren, would you like to go through this with us?
Good evening. You're considering a request to increase the weekly hours allotment for the part-time administrative assistant from 25 to 29. It's roughly 4 hours a week. And I believe that cost offset would be offset after talking with Sabrina by the savings in the vacancy in the fire chief's position for the next several months.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Alder Wolf?
Thank you, Your Honor. So, Chief, I attended the FNP meeting in person last Wednesday, and I have the minutes in front of me. And I just want to just confirm what your thoughts are and what the plan is for the increased hours. And I'm quoting, I'm really targeting to hopefully transition more of the payroll responsibilities that I currently do as the administrative assistant to the administrative assistant. So that is the plan, not hopefully, but that's one of the roles that you're looking to move from you to this position, if this is approved this evening, correct?
Correct. There's a list of a couple things I'm looking or targeting to transition kind of off my plate onto the administrative assistant's plate to free up more time for the more technical aspects of the job, including the payroll processing for my department, the coordination of our CERT team, which takes quite a bit of my time from month to month. And I also highlighted as we head into the summer, we're getting to that point where we have our real busy public relations, community education visits with all the schools and daycares. And that position is really instrumental in coordinating all that activity through the late summer and then through the early fall.
Okay, thank you. And as a follow-up, if I could ask as the interim city administrator, I guess, Amanda, my only concern is, we've been having these bleed throughs come through this year and now it's May. My only concern when we have something that hits outside of the budgeted timeline during budget time is I'm guessing that there are other departments that have other needs. And will this possibly prompt others to come forward? I mean, obviously, I think there's many departments that have need. My only concern is doing this off of a non-budget time period is my concern.
Yeah, I mean, my understanding is this is for a limited time, limited term increase. So it would not be expected to extend longer than sometime late summer, early fall based on the filling of the fire chief position. And so we're not looking at a 2024 impact at this point. It would have to be assessed like any other position as far as the needs go for a 2024 budget.
And thank you. So Chief, unless I missed it, I thought that you were asking for through the end of the year, through December.
We priced out I would put a worst case scenario cost on it for the end of the year. If the current position is filled internally, it creates another vacancy in my current position. It could go a couple more months through towards the end of the year.
So is the plan that if the police chief position is filled and the assistant police, excuse me, I get those two confused because you both wear uniforms. I'm sorry. So can I?
One's blue and one's white.
I know, but
They're both
It's-
blue
they're both.
when you get to the dress uniform.
Right. So may I assume though that when the fire chief position is filled and the assistant fire chief position is filled, that the additional hours will cease at that time?
Obviously, that'd be your direction, but the need for the request would be alleviated.
Okay.
Amanda?
I guess it would be my recommendation to make a hard end date on this. We don't know if there will be, what vacancies will exist as the next couple months play out. And so I think that we either should say that we're going to approve this to the fire chief, and then if the fire chief creates another vacancy, then we come back and we reassess at that point. Or alternatively, we simply commit through the end of a certain month. Whether that's the end of the year or, sometime before then. I guess I would prefer a concrete end date tonight.
And the reason why I ask is I just think it's always good when we're all on the same page, so there's never any misunderstandings. And that's what necessitated my question. Thank you.
Okay, well, we don't have a motion on the floor, so that can be encapsulated in that. Does anyone have any more questions, or someone can make a motion? Alder Stevens?
I guess, well, to that point, I would prefer the former, and I could make a motion, but I did want to make a comment on the memo that we had here. I believe Aldernaut had requested it. And this was a really good idea. When we set the budget for personnel costs, there's going to be changes, and I don't know the whole time I've ever been on council that we've kind of had numbers put to paper in front of us where we can keep track of that. So thank you, Sabrina, for doing this. I think it's something that we should maybe be looking at least quarterly, if not monthly. So with that, I will make a motion that we approve the hours for the administrative personnel in the fire department as requested to sunset upon hiring of the fire chief.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Alder Dan Stevens. It's been seconded by Alder Stephen Knott to approve increasing the fire administrative assistant position hours, increasing it from the current 25 up to 29 hours per week until the hiring of the fire chief. Alder Knott.
Yeah, and small thing to quibble over, I guess, but I actually do think that having an event-based is probably the better idea, since everything we've talked about is based upon an event, and that's the hiring of a chief, as opposed to setting a date. If we don't have a chief, well, we know what's coming back, so. Yeah.
Okay, Alder Stokes.
Yes, I was wondering if Sabrina would like to go through and just give us a synopsis of the memo that she spent, I'm sure, a good deal of time on to put together. So, Sabrina?
Absolutely. So in your mailboxes was a memo prepared by me in request from Alder Knott. I thank you for the request as well. I think it is good to see all of these requests, just to kind of know where we're at. I did just include personnel costs. And I just kind of listed out as we've gone through May of this year, the requests that have been made. Everything's pretty straightforward. The one thing that I did want to comment on is my last little summary at the bottom, where I do talk about sick leave payouts. So what that is if someone retires from the city of Onalaska, so meets that WRS retirement rate, retirement age, and retires from the city, and they have a sick leave balance, we do pay that out. That is a benefit of working for the city of Onalaska. It's very common for municipalities to have this type of payout. So I just felt it was important to include it. It's a tough thing to budget for every year. Amanda and I had discussions prior to the budget to kind of figure out what to budget for. There's also typically when we are budgeting for it, we will have a vacancy. So that kind of helps some of that payout of that cost. As well as the new person typically is hired at a lower rate. So it's really hard to calculate the budget impact for the sick leave payout. So I did my best guess on this without knowing like how long we will have vacancies. I just used what I have been given for sure retirements and estimated sick leave balances, and then what we've budgeted, and then the difference being the budget impact. So the budget impact, that would be worst case scenario. So that 27,000 is worst case scenario. Likely it will be less than that because we will have some vacancies as well as lower rates of people starting. So just kind of wanting to explain that piece. If there's any further questions, let me know.
Okay, Amanda?
I just wanted to add on to it that I think that out of all of the information Sabrina gave us, that is some of the most important because it's the easiest piece that we tend to forget about is these sick leave payouts. And so often we do have department heads and myself and even Sabrina saying, yep, but we have vacated wages. And in some cases, those vacated wages have already been sort of spent as a result of these sick leave and retirement payouts, especially with as many eligible employees as we have. And so just to keep that number kind of in the back of your head as we move throughout the budget year.
Okay, any other questions on the memo? Alder Jurassic?
Yeah, what is the max you can bank out?
960 hours,
Pardon me?
960 hours.
Okay.
Almost half a year's salary.
The one other thing that I'd like to note, if I can, Mayor, sorry, I
thank
just kind of.
No, it's interesting. Thank you.
The only other thing that I'd like to note, I did talk to Chair of FNP, Leanne, today. And right now, I'm really not concerned with us meeting our budget for 2023, but I think it is important to kind of pay attention to what we are approving and having kind of dollar figures in front of us. And if you do want to see this, 3 months from now, if there are more requests, I can definitely bring it forward again.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, the motion on the floor is to approve the increase from 20 to 29 until the fire chief is appointed. I don't think we voted yet. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to item 10, Judiciary Committee, Diane, Alder Diane Wolf.
Item 10A, ordinance 1764-2023 to amend also. Judiciary Committee, item A, ordinance 1764-2023 to amend section 7.04.11.d of Title 7 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Onalaska relating to the animal fancier license. It was a recommendation at Judiciary last week to refer to the full Common Council this evening.
Thank you. You want to recap it or you want to go to Amanda or someone else?
Oh,
to
I
do
think
it?
it would be best to go to staff
Okay.
first, since it was referred.
Just kind of recap where we're at.
I'm sorry, did you make a motion on that?
No,
No.
no, it was just referred.
Yeah, so I was not at ANJ last week due to an event I had to attend, but this was a product of some of the past discussion that we have had. Katie and I worked together. We reached out to different municipalities. Katie looked at what other communities are doing, and across the board, it was very clear that nobody's really granting exceptions, that is something that Onalaska has been doing unique to Onalaska, but many communities have this fancier license procedure where they do allow a limited increase in the number of animals. Most of them seem to fall kind of in this roughly 5 or 6 mark. And so we looked at sort of what our other similar ordinances we have related to pets are. We looked at the chicken ordinance. We looked at our beekeeping ordinance. We looked at other ordinances for animal fancier license procedures and what their requirements were. And we kind of looked at that and then considered what requests we have gotten in the recent past. And we put this together, which would allow people to keep in their possession up to 6 animals, but keeping that cap on no more than 4 dogs or 4 cats. And so that is something that we think is worth a discussion. Is that a limitation that we think should exist, or should it just simply be 6 animals of your choosing, cat or dog? This would be an annual permit, so people would go through a more formal process the first time, much like they would do with the chicken or the bee license, where we would send the letters and put them through that. It would have a bit higher fee, likely in like that $75 range for the first year, and then it would have a significantly lower fee in the years to come after that, because it would basically be a complaint-based system. So if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Okay, Alder Knott?
Have a couple of concerns, I guess, that shouldn't be too hard to address. Again, I guess I'll probably be supportive of it, although I'm still not convinced we need to have any of this, since we have ordinances and laws for nuisance animals and, you know, animal cruelty and things of that nature. But that said, as this goes forward, I would like to have us consider a grandfather clause for those past exceptions we have granted. I can think of 2 that we have done since I've been here. Both were within the last 18 months or so, and I'd hate to have folks have that rug pulled right from underneath them after we just said that, yes, you have an exception. And in each of those cases, there was a condition applied that said that when one of those, in this case with 5th dog, is deceased, you are not allowed to go purchase another one. At that point, you have to come within compliance. So it still would be short term. I'd like to see it grandfathered, since we gave people our word. So that's first one. Second is I'm curious, I guess, to hear from the city attorney hat on you, if I could. It's under paragraph 3E, contingent and revocation, the event of a complaint or to confirm compliance with the permit requirements. It talks about they have inspection capability, those parts of the premise where animals are kept. So the portion that says or to confirm compliance, I'm wondering if that's overly broad, that, you know, let us into your house, we want to confirm you're compliant. Or do we need to have a reasonable suspicion or a substantiated complaint in order to launch that type of an inspection?
We would not act without a substantiated complaint. I mean, that is essentially across the board in all property maintenance issues, other issues. I mean, we do not, we have to have either a picture or, you know, a sworn statement or something more than just somebody calling in, you know, with a little bit of a complaint. And so.
Can we reword that a bit? It'll be based upon a substantiated complaint.
I mean, my recommendation would be under E, complaints and revocations, in the event of a substantiated complaint, that we just insert that word.
But then what about the or to confirm compliance? And, or is it, you see where I'm going? So it's not an.
I mean, we wouldn't necessarily, I mean, I'm just trying to think of a situation, Katie, maybe you can, where we would confirm compliance without a substantiated complaint. I mean, the point of it would be to confirm compliance because we had a substantiated complaint.
Correct. Or it would be to confirm compliance with the permit requirements. So that would mean that they've been issued a permit and they've agreed to follow all the rules, and we've received a complaint that they are not following those rules. So we are.
But that's still a substantiated complaint that would be, we would be confirming the compliance. Yeah.
Remove the word or?
Yeah, that would be fine in the event of a substantiated complaint to confirm compliance with the permit requirements.
Okay. And last one, this is probably just something I'm not understanding, but it's probably going to be a simple answer. Also E, now it's on the backside. What is the 4 p.m. to 8 a.m. piece alluding to? The alleging that violations occur between 4 p.m. and 8 a.m.
So basically, we are only going to inspect between 8 AM and 4 PM. But if we get a complaint, for instance, that the dog always barks between 10 and midnight, we could choose to inspect between 10 and midnight.
Okay,
So
all
it's,
right, I'm getting it now. Yeah,
Okay.
it was pretty clear. I just,
it's weird because it's
Almost.
broken across two paper, like sides.
I'm thinking. Yeah, that's all I had.
Okay, Alder Stevens.
Just to build off Stephen's last point, in that case, that it was an animal barking late at night. Would the inspection be, I mean, that could be done by the police department? Okay, so. But if it was between normal working hours, then it would be done by the enforcement department.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay,
I was just looking for the clarification. Thank you.
so what is the pleasure of the council?
I will make a motion to approve an ordinance to amend section 7.04.11D of Title 7 of the Code of Ordinances relating to animal fancier licenses, with the understanding that the word "or" will be struck in the first sentence of paragraph E, and that we will add a grandfather clause for all those families who have received previous approval for exception.
Thank you. Is there a second? Motion on the floor by Alder Knott. It's been seconded by Alder Jurassic. Is there discussion? Alder Stevens?
I think it was within the last month or perhaps two, we had denied some claims for people to exceed. Would they be then eligible to then reapply for a fancier license?
Yes.
Yes, and we did tell those individuals to just please sit tight, do not rehome your animal, give us like 2 months to work through this process.
Thank you.
Alder Wolf?
Thank you, Your Honor. I would like to make a friendly amendment to item 3D1. The animal fancier license, it currently says 2, and I would like to change that to 1. And I reserve my time if I get a second.
Okay, we have a motion for an amendment. Is there a second on the amendment?
I'll second it for discussion. Just kind of wondering what the rationale behind the 2-to-1 would be.
Okay, so on the amendment has been made and seconded. Alder Wolf, would you like to?
Thank you again, Your
add
Honor.
on that?
And the reason why I personally am more comfortable with 1, we've been operating with the 4 animal number for quite some time now. And if we go to 2, we are looking to allow people to exceed the typical number by 50%. And if we do the 1, then we're looking at they can exceed it by 25%. And I just kind of think about like if people want to exceed an area or square footage, or I know it just seems to go to allow someone to have 50% more animals. That just seems to be excessive to me. Thank you.
So instead of the maximum of being 6, you would want the maximum to be 5?
Yes.
With no more than 4 cats or dogs,
Okay.
total of 5 animals.
Yes.
Amanda, did you want to comment on that as to why 1 or 2 was chosen?
So we went back and forth. As you can see, actually, I had in there 1 and then I changed it to 2. And really, I felt that it was your decision what it should be. But part of why I was supportive of going up to 2 is that we did maintain that limitation of 4 dogs or 4 cats. So we're not suddenly allowing 6 cats or 6 dogs. You're still only allowed 4 dogs, but now you could have 4 dogs and 2 cats, or you could have 4 cats and 2 dogs.
Okay. Alder Knott?
Yeah, I would like to maintain the two. Obviously, I'm somewhat uncomfortable with even going down this road at all, but with it as written right now, it's a little bit less restrictive. I think I've been on the record before, it's been a while, but anytime we have new ordinances, the big question I always have is there a compelling need? And if not, then we really don't need the ordinance. But if there is a compelling need, then we still need to draft it so it is the least restrictive possible to meet that compelling need on the citizens. I don't like being more restrictive unless there's an absolute necessity to do that.
Okay, so we're talking about the amendment. Is there any other discussion? So the original proposal was to allow 2 additional dogs or cats for a total of 6. But Diane's amendment is to knock that down to 1 additional for a total of 5. So that if you vote yes, that means you want 1 additional for 5.
Your Honor, if I may ask one
Yes.
other question. In the past several years, I'm not sure at this point how I want to go on this, but the past several years, I know that we've had several requests for 1 animal above what the norm was. Have we ever had more than 1 request?
Not since we changed it. We did grandfather those individuals that had 6 on file. At the time, we changed it down to 4. And so we do still have some of those individuals, but our most recent requests have almost entirely been for 1 additional animal.
Yeah, thank you. I'm not sure if that makes me go one way or the other yet, so, but it's good info to have.
Just to confirm, a yes vote means going to 1 additional total 5.
For a total of 5.
As opposed to 2 for, no vote would be to maintain the 2 additional total 6
As written in the document.
as written, yes.
Okay. So let's do the voting by roll calls and because it seems like it might be split. So we're just voting on the amendment now. So please answer when your name is called.
Dan Stevens,
I will say yes.
Stephen Knott,
No,
Leanne Stokes,
Yes.
Sean McAllister,
yes.
Diane Wolf,
Yes.
Larry Jurassic.
Yes.
Okay, so that amendment passes 5-1. So the wording will then be changed to 1 additional pet for a total of 5 is the amendment. Okay, and then back to the original motion is to approve the fancier license with the couple of changes made earlier by Alder Knott. Do we need to discuss that anymore or are we ready to vote? Alder Jurassic wants to say.
Yeah, now that we're going to just 1 animal over, is that going to change the cost for the fee?
We haven't established the fee yet. That'll be on the agenda for next month.
Okay. That's all.
Everybody ready? Okay, so if you're voting yes, that is to approve this ordinance with the changes as we've discussed for ordinance 1764. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries and the ordinance passes. Number 11 is a report from the interim city administrator, Amanda Jackson, an update on the various city projects. Take it away, Amanda.
All right, just 1 second. My computer was updated while I was on vacation and is not behaving. So I'm gonna have to pull it up on the screen up there. So just a couple project updates this month. Nothing crazy. We just wanted to let you know that Park and Rec Director Dan Wick is going to be meeting with Dave Scogan on May 17th to better understand the vision, timeline, and funding for the announced expansion of Dash Park. We did receive some very kind of general project sketches. And if you'd like to view those, you can head over to Park and Rec at your leisure and do so. The Rocking Sunfish, we have just a short update on that during the process of building the prototype, we became concerned with respect to the safety of the Rocking Sunfish. It is going to be fairly heavy. And so there became sort of a concern about like little toes and just some safety concerns with that. We did work with Oak, who was very open to adjusting their plan, as well as the Craftsman. And so they did submit an updated version of the Sunfish, which I attached a drawing of. It will now be a gliding Sunfish, which I think will be better for the safety of our residents and visitors. Once that's completed, the prototype, then they will come back to determine placement with the council. The last one is the mural at Head Start, and I do apologize. I found out before this meeting that that was approved in error. There is a bit of a hiccup with that project that we're going to have to do some digging into. We don't allow front facade murals, and so we're going to have to take a look at the ordinance and what options we have for that moving forward.
Okay, thank you for that update. Alder Wolf?
Thank you, Your Honor. So regarding number 2, the Rocking Sunfish, I know on the attachment, it is typed up, this proposal is for one fish as shown below to be in Dash Park. And they talk about fundraising, then ideally, 2 smaller, then an additional 2. So I just want to make sure that everyone's on the same page.
Yeah, I mean, those are Oak's notes. However, the vote at the Common Council was that they would come back and approach you to determine the location of that initial Sunfish.
And the reason why I bring it up, I know before I came on council back in 2017, 18, when it was the sculpture, I sat in the audience and I felt that there was some miscommunication. I was sitting in the audience and I knew there was some miscommunication. I didn't feel like council was very clear at that time. And to be fair to Oak, I just want to make sure that we are communicating very well this time. So there is no miscommunication or any feelings hurt. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, everyone. I'll bring us to item 12. To convene in closed session. It's now time to consider a motion to convene in closed session under section 19.85, paragraph 1, paragraph G of the Wisconsin statutes for the purpose of conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved, specifically a claim for property damage at 221 Main Street on Alaska, and also to consider a motion to convene in closed session under section 19.85, paragraph 1, paragraph C of the Wisconsin statutes for the purpose of considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. Specifically, the contract for the city administrator. If any action is required in open session as a result of the closed session, the council will reconvene in open session to take the necessary action and or continue on with the printed agenda. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion that we go into closed session.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor by Larry Jurassic. It's been seconded by Sean McAllister. Voting will be by roll call.
Diane Wolf,
Aye.
Dan Stevens,
Aye.
Stephen Knott,
Aye.
Sean McAllister,
Aye.
Larry Jurassic,
Aye.
Leanne Stokes.
Aye.
Thank you. We are in closed session. The time is 7:48.
It's a couple minutes.
Let's have just a 5-minute break.
Mayor,
Yes.
and like Kevin.
We are in open session. Item
12.
Item 12 regarding the property damage claim at 221 Main Street. What is the pleasure of the council?
Your Honor, I move that we deny the property damage claim at 221 Main Street.
I
Second.
second.
All right. Somebody
Motion
else
by
get it.
Alder Stevens, second by Alder Stokes to deny the claim. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of the denial, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The claim has been denied. Item 14, adjournment. Is there a second?
Second.
Alder Jurassic, all in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
The B-dubs, if anybody wants.